Also? Okay. So what is your name?
My name is Richard Gerard.
How long have you been keeping bees?
I've been keeping bees for 7 years.
What type of hive do you use?
I use a Langstroth hive. All my hives are Langstroth.
How many hives do you have?
I started with 2 7 years ago. I now have 10. But that number goes up and down based on losses throughout the year. So sometimes we get losses. I would say on average with the club, it's probably between 30 and 50% through the winter losses still. So that number fluctuates. So they may go down, but then in the spring you may have a strong hive that swarms, and if you catch that swarm, then you increase. So the number varies, but at present I have 10.
Where do you keep them all?
Mostly at my house. I live in Salem, Massachusetts. I have 7, 8 there, and I have 2 others up in Hamilton at friends that wish to have bees, but they don't know about beekeeping. So they asked me if I would manage hives at their property.
Why did you originally start to keep bees?
I originally kept bees because of the PBS program. Nature highlighted aired a show called The Silence of the Bees, and I just happened to come home one night and was channel surfing, and I turned it on, and there was the show, and I started watching it, and I was thinking, oh my God, all these bees are dying. I will do my part for Mother Nature, and I will just have some beehives and just put them out in the backyard, and I really intended not to do much more than that. I wasn't a honey fan. I was just going to do my part for Mother Nature and be like having a goldfish, you know, come home and pet your goldfish the way you pet your dog. But anyway, I heard about Essex at the end of the show. It said, what you can do, click here, pbs.org, and I clicked there and went down, found the county is usually where beekeeping clubs are. I Googled Essex County Beekeeping and found this club where I found they had a beginner beekeeping class that was coming up in about 6 weeks. I signed up and took that class, and it's been a slippery slope ever since. So.
When one of your hives has a high mite count, do you treat it, and if so, how?
I used to not treat it all. I like to be a totally organic beekeeper, and the only way to treat hives was with chemicals. Very recently, last year I think was the first U.S. Approval of a product originally made in Canada, which is a formic acid based product, which is a natural certified organic treatment for mites. That's what I use now if the mite count is high. And I don't really even do mite counts. It's an organic product. Formic acid is actually a product made by bees in the hive. So some people, myself included, if I see a hive that I think is struggling from mites, you can treat prophylactically. You don't even go in to do a mite count, because doing a mite count usually requires the killing of a bunch of bees, or is very time consuming. And so if I suspect mites, I will use that product. But it's a product, again, that I don't really do a mite count to decide whether I'm going to use it or not. So.
When do you harvest from your hive?
I harvest usually twice a year. The spring flow in Salem, where I live, I'm a little close to the water, so things tend to go a little later than normal. My hives, I usually harvest my spring honey, I would say in July, and then, or the first part of July, and then my autumn honey, usually the very end of September, early part of October is when I take that, the autumn honey.
Do you ever feed your bees syrup, and why?
The only time I feed bees syrup is 2 times. One, when I get a brand new package of bees or a swarm I've catch, and I'm putting them in a brand new hive that has just what we call foundation, a sheet of beeswax with no honeycomb built on it, and I am encouraging them to build out the honeycomb quickly. They need a lot of sugar resources to do that. The other time that I will feed is starting right about now. Actually, this is the first week of, or the middle of October we're speaking. I will go around and I will check the hives by lifting them. I will grab the bottom and just kind of heft them up a little bit on one end to see how heavy they are. If they feel to me to be light, and on average you want to have about 60 to 90 pounds of honey per hive to go through the winter, because the honey is their food store through the winter. If I find a hive that is really, really light, and it might be a swarm I caught late in the season, or for many different reasons, but if it could be a summer that was very hot and dry, where all the nectar kind of dried up in the flowers before the bees could get it. For whatever reason, if the bees are light going into winter and they need that amount of honey, I will feed them sugar water so they can beef up and have enough to get through. So those are my 2 times.
What's the worst thing that's ever happened to a hive?
The worst thing. Well, the worst thing is when you have a hive that doesn't make it. I remember my first year or my second year when you come through the winter, and whether it was from mites or whether it was just from general attrition or pesticides, whatever, if the cluster of bees was too small to generate enough critical mass to generate enough warmth to make it through the winter. When you come through in the spring and you find what we call a dead out, if you find a hive that's dead and you see the little cluster of bees that basically froze in place, that's pretty depressing.
What worries you the most about continuing as a beekeeper?
What? Excuse me?
What worries you the most about
What
continuing
worries me?
as a beekeeper?
What worries me probably the most about being a beekeeper is the overuse of pesticides by just general homeowners. Too much Roundup, too much ChemLawn, too much GrubX. People putting things down on their lawns because they think they have a problem, where generally speaking, similar to humans, if you don't have strep throat, then you wouldn't start taking a bunch of penicillin. So if you don't have a grub problem, and a little bit of grubs in your lawn, I'm here to tell you, it's an okay thing. You can get by. Your lawn is healthy, and if it is healthy, it will make it through. You don't need to put things like that down all the time. And so a lot of people in this day and age where everything is so busy in their lifestyle, they think, oh, okay, I'll just go here, I'll spend X amount of money, put a bag down and wing it around, or I'll place a phone call. And people spread chemicals that they think are benign, but in fact are not in a lot of ways, especially to bees.
Thank you very much.
All right, it's my pleasure.